Tom was dying. It's just funny. It's funny across the board. That's fine. I'll tell everybody in chat how disrespectful you are.
On the playback over there. What's up, guys?
And we are live. Kristaps Porzingis starting, by the way. There it is. Yeah. Just got it. This is NBA Live Before Lock. Game 1, finals. Celtics, Mavs. It's Thursday, June 6th. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. And shout out to Underdog. Greg, the finals are here. We get to watch some good basketball today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This should be a really fun series, and there's really good narratives no matter who wins. If the Celtics win, is this the start of the next great team? People have been really sour on the Boston Celtics the last couple of years, but I mean, this is a really strong core that they have right now. And then on the Dallas side, if they end up winning, Luka's on path to be one of the best players ever. So I think that there's really fun discussions to be had no matter how this series ends up going. And I'm looking forward to breaking it down. We already got one big piece of news that I didn't really know what was going to come of it, but we do have Kristaps Porzingis starting for the Celtics. I did think there was a chance he was going to come off the bench today. I don't know what to expect from his minutes, but you and I will be walking through that in the next 30 minutes.
Yes, we will. It's exciting to talk about. No basketball for a week kind of sucked. Not that I don't like baseball, but you get into a rhythm of talking about this stuff for like 6 straight months. It's weird when it's not in your life. It's like a breakup.
Yeah, there was no basketball. I've been into the NHL playoffs as well, and that also like ridiculous, like 10 days in between games or something like that. So yeah, some high leverage spots. And then we get into the doldrums of the summer.
So I was talking about this on the strategy show more generically today, and I was curious to get your thoughts. We talk so much about like so-and-so's a good play, so-and-so's a bad play. Does it matter? Like, if you look at this game and you're like, you know what? I think this is a really good series for Derek Jones Jr. I think he's going to not get guarded enough. And I think he has the opportunity to like do well as a mid-tier play because of X, Y, and Z. But maybe he grades out with like negative leverage. Previously, we would talk about it and just be like, well, Derek Jones Jr. is a bad play. He's got negative leverage. But now, if that's your thought process, like the first thing that you can do is just run your sims and be like, okay, well, I want the best Derek Jones Jr. lineups. Like you can make your stand and still play good lineups at the same time. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be this conversation where we're like, no, this guy's bad. And in these showdown sets in particular, like I think we're perfectly set up to like actually talk about basketball.
Yeah. And then I do have one pretty big stand that I'm going to be taking today. And what for me personally, what I want to do is I want to take some of the scenarios where we don't really know what's going to happen. And if the field is overweight to it, I'd prefer to be underweight. If the field is underweight, I want to be overweight. I think you probably get what I'm alluding to here in terms of a guy that I really like today, because I don't know what to make of the Boston Celtics front court minutes. What I do know is that the field is like, we're not touching it.
Yeah. I'm 2xing Kristaps Porzingis right now. I like that in a situation where there's heavy volatility. If he is going to come in lighter because of that, that's a spot where I'm willing to take on some of that risk given the size of this contest and hope that I can squeeze that out a little bit more. Like, bad is all the same. Like, if he has a 50th percentile outcome or a 10th percentile outcome, like that lineup's just not going to win one way or the other. But you would not be surprised in any way for Kristaps Porzingis to have a 90th percentile outcome and him be Kristaps Porzingis. Like his upside is highest scorer on today's slate.
Everything's about to change. The Celtics just updated their lineup. Porzingis is no longer starting.
Motherfucking fuck.
I mean, there's only NBA. You got to fuck around. There's one fucking game today. There's one game, and we still have to do the late news. We got to, and not only is there only one game, they've had a week to prepare for it. We've still got to change the starting lineup 20 minutes before the game. What are we doing here? I got to redo everything now.
What in the? So who bit on that? Because the tweet's already just deleted and not in my stream anymore. That makes sense. Okay. So I was like, I know I read that when it popped up, and then I didn't see it on the left. Okay. How do you think, because now that's the only thing that we should talk about right now. How do you think that impacts what we get out of Kristaps Porzingis today and what we do with Al Horford?
Yeah. So for starters here, I wasn't expecting Porzingis to play like 38 minutes or anything like that. I
No,
know that Joe Mazzulla said earlier that Porzingis wasn't going to have a minutes limit, but like, what does that mean? Right? Because it's not
right.
like they're going out there and they're saying he has to only play a max of 28 minutes today. But I also was looking at it as like, realistically, he's not going to play 38, 40 minutes or anything like that. I was expecting about 30 minutes from Kristaps Porzingis. Now that he's coming off the bench, it's so hard to say. He could play 20. He could play 24. The one thing his minutes have to be somewhat capped coming off the bench. It's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah. So he has a points prop at FanDuel right now. Al Horford does not. And it's obviously changing. 13 and a half juice to the over at 26 minutes. Okay, 14 and a half juice to the under now. At 26 minutes, I end up quite a bit heavier on a points prop for Porzingis. So if this starts to settle in that like 14 range, I think 24 is probably the outlook for Porzingis at that point. Do you think that unlocks more of Luke Cornett or any of Luke Cornett?
So what's tricky about this also is with some of the other backup centerments, but the short answer to your question is no. The
Okay.
longer answer is I don't even know that Luke Cornett has to be the next big man that comes off the
Yep.
bench. They could go to small ball lineups with Brissett. They could go to Tillman. Tillman
Yep.
played over Cornett towards the tail end of the last series. Now I know that Luke Cornett had a wrist injury where he missed time with, but even when Cornett was back and active, it was still Xavier Tillman that was playing minutes over Luke Cornett. So what makes it hard and why it's not really a spot that I want to be going to, we have Horford and Porzingis active, even if neither of them are going to go out and play, like a crazy amount of minutes. But because we have both of them, and then we have Tillman and Cornett, uncertain of which one of them is going to get minutes, we no longer have the 1K minimum anymore. It's hard to really allocate very many minutes to Tillman or Cornett. And I am not even sure which one of them sees the court.
Man, this gets tricky. It looks like that prop is settling right around like 13 and a half to 14. So I've taken Porzingis down to 24 minutes. Al Horford's prop is now at 8.5. I have him in for 28 minutes. I think that's the extent of the changes that I'm going to make here. What that ends up being when I export my lineups now is going to be very different because we lock in 21 minutes.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. We just updated projections on the site. We put Porzingis for 26 and a half.
Okay. And Horford for 27. Okay. How does this change? How do you think this is going to change what you had regarding Porzingis now?
So I had a big Porzingis stand. I had Porzingis in about 60% of my lineups. I was playing him. We only had him projected for 1% ownership in the captain spot. So I was like, hell, I'll play 10% of Porzingis in the, not like I was actively deciding this. I ran everything through the Sims and I had 10% of Porzingis in the captain spot just because I was assuming he was starting. It was announced, or there was tweets at least, that he was going to start. So I felt pretty good about him being the starter. And I just thought there was a scenario where he could get 30 minutes out of Kristaps Porzingis. He's a really good points per minute fantasy producer, and you're just getting an upside on somebody who had no ownership. This really caps the upside. Like he could still have a solid game, but the ceiling for playing time, it just doesn't really exist in the same way with him coming off the bench.
Now, like I was right there with you. I didn't have the captain piece, but I had 46%. We were projecting 22. So like I was taking a pretty sizable stand. The question now becomes like, does this just bring his ownership down? Does it stay where it is right now? Because if it comes down in any way, like that kind of just offsets everything that just happened. And I probably like if he's 15 instead of 22, then I probably have like 35 instead of 45. But uh, I'm guessing this isn't going to flip my stance. It's certainly going to give me
I
a little
don't
bit
think
more
it's
of
going
Al
to change his
Horford.
ownership. The reason I don't think it's going to change his ownership is it was already kind of at a floor. Like it's not
Yeah,
like people could all of a sudden say 10% Porzingis. People were already assuming he was going to be limited and not play very much. I don't think this is going to change the way people are approaching him.
I think you're right. I hope you're right. I think I would much rather have it go the other direction. Did we just get ownership? That can't be right, can it?
Let's see. So ownership now. Whoops, I forgot this is a showdown slate and not a main slate. So I clicked on the wrong thing, and then I'm trying to figure out updated a week ago.
18 for Porzingis, 20 for Horford. So that bumped up Horford by like 5% and cut Kristaps Porzingis by like 5%.
Yeah, not a real significant change.
No, I think that all makes sense. Oh, fun. I'm excited to rerun my stuff now. So who are the guys you're getting to? Or who were the guys you were getting to?
Yeah. So I know it was my biggest stand was Kristaps Porzingis. Now I think not exactly the same way because he's not as good of a fantasy producer, but considering what the current projected ownership is on Al Horford, I'm assuming when I rerun everything, I'm going to come in overweight to the field on him. I think that's a pretty sensible way to differentiate some lineups. As far as other players that I was getting overweight to that I think will probably still be the case, Jaylen Brown is kind of the odd man out in terms of the pay up options today, where you have the field really going heavily towards Luka, Jason Tatum, Kyrie Irving. You're getting like a 10% ownership discount on Jaylen Brown relative to those other guys. So to me, that's the most sensible way to pay up for somebody in the captain spot or the flex spot and be different from the field is just go to Jaylen Brown, who is the lowest ownership. And I don't think his ceiling is any different than, say, like Kyrie's. Kyrie's just a lot more popular.
I have 72% overall of Jaylen Brown, including 20% at the captain. So we are in lockstep there. Oh, fun. I like every bit of this. I'll probably rerun everything in like a minute or two. Let everything settle just in case we do another run. Yeah, so right now, my big stands were Jaylen Brown at the captain, Derek White at captain, Drew Holiday at captain. Very heavy Boston captain, other guys. I have a small amount of Tatum, but well under the field. I don't anticipate Brown, White, Holiday not being heavy captains for me after this change. I assume this just shuffles the deck chairs of utility ownership.
And I'm going to be getting to a little bit of Al Horford in the captain spot, I assume, too. But when you got a slate like this, especially if you guys are playing the Millie Maker today, which is it's like 50% of the prize pool just about to first place, it really, really is in your best interest to get as contrarian as possible in those spots. And that to me is where Porzingis stood out before, and that's where Al Horford is now going to stand out to me.
Mr. Sims, what are you talking about, man? Guys, hit the like button, by the way. We got 1,300 people in the door. Hit the old like button. It will help us out more than you would ever know. Do you have anybody that you don't like today? Or like that was a guy that you're just like, well, we're cheering against him?
Let's see. Who was I underweight to? I mean, it's not necessarily that I don't like him, but
yeah,
Luka is somebody who he's been so difficult anytime that we've done any of these showdown slates to get overweight to the field to him because he's just the most, for good reason, he's the most popular option on every single one of these slates. And it makes sense. He's clearly the best overall fantasy producer in every single series he's been in the playoffs. But because that is the case, the entire field plays him in all of these contests. And then you just can't build unique lineups with Luka. So it's not that I hate Luka, but I'm underweight to him in the captain spot. I'm going to be underweight to him in the flex spot. I'll have lineups with him, just like half or so of what the field has.
Exactly the same scenario for me. That's probably not good for you.
Or maybe it's good for you.
Well, if we're both taking that Jaylen Brown stand, you and I both know what his first half's going to look like.
Dog shit.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Green check mark, blue check mark, yellow check mark. Doesn't matter what the check mark is on DraftKings for Kristaps Porzingis. Here's the check mark for you verbally. Kristaps Porzingis is not starting for the Boston Celtics.
I
take that however you would like.
This is also going to be something that it's almost confirmation bias because I've already said I want to be overweight to the field on Al Horford. There are people who hand build their lineups just using DraftKings. We saw in our Discord chat earlier. There was people who are like, hey, I can't remember who the pitcher was. There was some pitcher that FanDuel said was starting who wasn't starting, who ended up picking up ownership because of that. There's going to be people who just assume Al Horford is coming off the bench because that's what it says on DraftKings.
Yes, it is. And good. That's helpful. I'll take it. But Yes, Al Horford is starting at center. Kristaps Porzingis coming off the bench for the Boston Celtics. Also, shout out to Underdog. Sign up for them. There's a link in chat shortly whenever Jordan drops that. There's going to be a link in the description of this video. They are an absolute one-stop shop if you're not in a legal sports betting state. Pick 'em, DFS contests, best ball, which you can play those best ball contests using free best ball projections and rankings. All you have to do is sign up at Stochastic and create an account. It costs you $0. You immediately get our NFL best ball stuff. You could use that at Underdog. They've got a free square on Jason Tatum. Let's hope that he scores more than 0.5 real points. Let's hope he doesn't score too many because I don't have a lot at the captain, but you could use free squares. You can get in 3 different kinds of contests today if you want to. It's that easy. Sign up at Underdog if you can. Link in chat. What do you want to touch on? What's like, here's one for you. How do you feel about Maxi Kleber now? He's got an extra week off. I think he's a very important piece of this series for Dallas if he can take on any additional minutes. Could you see him just going out there and playing 18 to 20 today?
It's hard for me to see that just because of the fact that we do have for Dallas now, Derek Lively's back. Daniel Gafford's also played well in the playoffs. So I do think the Klebo is going to be, I know you're not a big fan of Daniel Gafford. Now, overall, it's not like every game he's had has been great, but he's had big enough moments in individual parts of games where the team isn't just going to get away from Daniel Gafford entirely. So to the question of, is Klebo live to play like 20 minutes? I don't think 20 minutes. He'll be in the rotation. I don't think he's going to play any kind of massive sum of minutes, though.
I think there's going to be a game where it happens. Whether it's today or not, I don't know. But now that they have that extra piece and he got another week, I'm really curious to see how much that's changed his shoulder. Like, did he go to Germany and get baby stem cell injections in the time between it and then come back? I don't know, maybe. He's the wild card for me of both teams, really, where I wouldn't be surprised if he's feeling better that they lean on him more. I think it would come at the expense of Daniel Gafford. It's also possible that Boston has enough experience that it becomes a bit more of a problem for Derek Lively. Because Lively's been exceptional, and like they definitely found something getting him. But this is also a rookie going up against a team that has as much playoff experience as any team had coming into this year by a lot. And they're going to throw a bunch of shit at him that's going to look a lot different than what a Minnesota series looked like. And that could be a problem for a rookie. Like, you just, sometimes rookies have to learn on their feet, and that could be a problem too. I see the wiggle room for Maxi. I don't know how actionable it is today, but I think if his shoulder's any better, I think we see his minutes climb.
So the biggest issue that if Dallas does have to make some sort of change with their front court rotation has been that in every other series that they've played, there's kind of been a zero on offense that they've gone up against. Not like, but like Rudy Gobert, for instance, he's not creating his own offense. He's not a shooting threat or anything like that. There's nobody they could hide Luka on in this series at all. And I think that's also one of the reasons why Luka's kind of been absent on, like, we haven't seen teams attack Luka. It's because they've been able to hide him. Like, when we saw Luka get scored on in the last series, it was actually because he was guarding Gobert on a bunch of possessions. There isn't anybody that could do that with Luka in this series. And then also, as a result, they can't really have a floater on defense, so they can't just have Lively and Gafford defending the paint. With Porzingis and Horford out on the court, that's going to have to pull Lively and Gafford out of the paint. I think it's going to make it easier for the Celtics to score points around the rim relative to every other team that's gone up against Dallas in the postseason.
Completely agree. God, I'm so excited to watch this game, man. We're in a good spot. And lock is in 9 minutes, guys. This stuff moves quickly. My sim is just about done. I cannot wait to see what has changed here. I know whatever it is, I'm going to hate it. When I like what I have and something like this happens, it usually just changes so dramatically that it's just like, well, this is the new data. And then I look back at it and it's like, well, I wish I just did everything that I had 15 minutes before that.
Mine just finished. I have a lot of Al Horford.
Okay. I mean, I don't think that's crazy. Are you going captain Al Horford?
Not a crazy amount, but like wait, I have 6% captain Al Horford, which is way different than what the field isn't playing him at all in the captain spot.
No, they are not. 1%. Oh boy. Do you think there are any cheapies that are more interesting to you? Whether that's we'll go Josh Green down. So Josh Green, Jaden Hardy, obviously Maxey, Exum, Tim Hardaway Jr. could very easily get himself back into like maybe not very easily, but like in a different series, you might get somebody else. You might get an extra person in the rotation. Who knows? Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser. I don't think we're going to talk about any of the backup centers because then you're splitting between two. Like it's hard to be confident in Cornette when it can just be Tillman, whereas like Pritchard and Hauser are just going to be out there. I think this is a really good series for Sam Hauser.
I think we could see from the Dallas side of the game. I'm not rostering him really, and I don't think it's the most likely scenario. But I thought this could have been the case last series. It never really ended up coming to fruition. But I do wonder in this matchup if we do see Dallas down by 10, 15 points, which I mean, they're 6.5 point underdogs. It's something that's certainly within the realm of possibilities. Do we see Tim Hardaway close in one of these games where they're trying to get shooting on the court? I think it's a very slim outcome. I don't think it happens very frequently. But if you told me like who's like the longest dart throw that you could possibly take a chance on, it would be Hardaway. He's only in a couple of my lineups, but the field's not going to be playing him
No.
really at all today. But yeah, not any kind of real priority play, but he's like the deepest flyer that I can make a case for.
Yeah, like I could see him easily just getting the minutes that they were going to give to Jaden Hardy. And I wouldn't look back at that and think like, well, that was weird.
I could easily see him playing 0 minutes also. I think it's probably the most likely scenario.
Yeah, that also would not be shocking at all if he didn't step foot on the floor. But we got to remember, when you get to a new series and you're playing a new team, all bets are off. Most teams usually do open it back up a little bit more in game one, and then you start to smush it all together as you move forward. Because if this gets to like a game 6, then we're going to start penciling in Tatum for 44 minutes, Jaylen Brown for 40 plus, Luka for 43 or 44. Like that's when it starts to consolidate. Game 1 is usually a bit more of a feeling out process.
And another thing too that kind of echoes this. Do you remember the ownership for the first game the Mavericks played in the playoffs? It was a full slate with a bunch of teams in play. It wasn't single game slates. Gafford was like 70% owned and Lively was like 8% owned. That seems so crazy in hindsight, but we could see a rotation change like that also, where there's somebody who's not picking up ownership today, who everybody's just going to play every game the rest of the series.
All right. I believe my stuff just finished.
By the way, biggest change for me by getting to more of Al Horford, I was able to get more unique Luka lineups because of how low owned Horford is and also the salary savings he comes with. So I'm still underweight to Luka, but not as underweight as I was before because of the Al Horford piece.
Yeah, I had some, I don't want to say dramatic changes, but it moved around quite a bit. I now don't have Kristaps Porzingis. So I just went from 2xing him at 20% to full blank, don't play well type stuff. I'm 2xing Al Horford now in the utility spot. The Derek White captain that I had has gone away. I do have a little bit of Tatum captain now. PJ Washington captain. I actually got to Luka captain. I have more of him now at the utility, same way that you were just talking. My most exposed player, though, is still Drew Holiday, and I am still okay with that for today.
Yeah, overall, yeah, I think Horford's my most rostered player overall. I'd have to add up all of the captain and flex exposures, but yeah, I think it is Horford for me now.
It's Horford. Sorry, it's Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Kyrie Irving is my top 3. Man, no zinger. That's surprising. I didn't think it was going to be as extreme. Let's see. Did that prop move at all? Yeah, it's at 14.5 right now. I can handle that.
One thing that is nice, the top bet of the day, pretty much all day on OddsShopper for tonight's game was under 15.5 points at plus money for Porzingis. So that looks pretty good now that we have him confirmed coming off the bench. I didn't get off Porzingis entirely, but I went from having him in, I think it was 55% of lineups before to now I have 20% of Porzingis, but still a lot of Horford for me. He's in more than half my lineups. Yeah, and I
I
see
like it.
unfathomable ace in the playback chat, and we're going to be in playback in 4 minutes to watch the game along with you guys. Said the
We
coach
are.
that no minutes restriction on Porzingis. It's just coach speak, though. He's coming off the bench. That is artificially limiting his minutes in some way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're just going to like watch him and see how he looks. Like, I also wouldn't be surprised if he started the second half.
Yeah. If he plays well and looks really healthy in the first half, he's a wild card. We have no clue what to expect out of him right now.
Yeah. It helps that he's 8,200 in the utility spot. Like, it's a real price tag. He's not priced to be coming off the bench. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's hard to get to. The only reason he shows up in even any of the lineups he does for me is just because the ownership is low. I don't like him. I wouldn't tell if you guys are playing one lineup, two lineups, three lineups, play Al Horford. Don't play Porzingis.
Yeah. I'm going to cut a little bit of this PJ Washington captain. Yeah, that's perfect. All right. Whatever I have right now is what's going in. Oh, we're going to be watching basketball in 2 minutes, dude. The NBA Finals is here. If Laffy were around, he and I would be exceptionally drunk shortly. All right, here's my final exposure.
Run did you end up most underweight to then?
Daniel Gafford. I only have 6%. That's fine. I don't like him in the series. If he proves me wrong, kudos. I shit all over him earlier today. I don't have any Jaden Hardy. I'm very light on Peyton Pritchard. I don't hate that. I don't love his spot here in this series. I think Luka pulls him into a lot of actions, and that could be a problem. I think you probably see Peyton Pritchard play a lot of. I think you see Peyton Pritchard playing the 8 minutes that Luka Doncic is on the bench. That's for sure. Fades. I mean, I'm pretty light on Tatum. Like, I have 40%, but he's 55 total. So that's going to at least be a little bit different. I make that up by going Brown over Tatum. So I don't really mind that at all. I don't really have any other fades.
Kyrie for me. Kyrie's now close to 20% owned in the captain spot. I have 10% of him there. I'm also underweight to him in the flex spot. One thing that didn't change for me is that I'm still, of the pay up options, I'm most overweight to Jaylen Brown. That's something that didn't change at all for me with the updates.
We're in the exact same boat there. I'm fading a good Porzingis game and Daniel Gafford getting real minutes, or just fluking into like 4 blocks or 5 blocks or something stupid. But if you don't have your lineups in right now, guys, you have 30 seconds to go. And the last time that we did this show, you could have had a full hour and it didn't matter because DraftKings was not up and you were not playing those lineups. But now, here we are heading to playback right now. Playback.tv/stochastic. We're going to go watch the game. You guys can watch it along with us. And if you're lucky, we have 50 VIP passes to give out so that you can watch that game with us. But we're going to be hanging out watching at least the first half. It's the final, so decent chance that I stick around for the entire game, or at least take a little bit of a break. But we're going to go do that right now. So YouTube, thanks for being here. Shout out to Underdog. We're going to get on out of here. We're heading to playback. We'll talk to you later. Go Celtics.